In the golden age of the Roman Republic, where power was measured in land, wealth, and blood, one man towered above all in sheer riches: Marcus Licinius Crassus, a man whose fortune could buy cities, armies, and perhaps even destiny. Crassus wasn't just rich, he was Rome's richest man. A shrewd politician, real estate magnate, and ruthless general. He had risen alongside Julius Caesar and Pompey in the legendary First Triumvirate. But for Crassus, wealth was not enough. He craved what neither coin nor Senate decree could buy: everlasting glory on the battlefield. And so, he turned his gaze east, towards the mighty Parthian Empire. In 53 BC, Crassus made a decision that would not only end his career, but destroy tens of thousands of Roman lives. Against the advice of his allies, against the Roman Senate, and against all common sense, he declared war on Parthia. Why? Because he believed the East would be easy. Because his pride demanded a victory like Caesar's in Gaul. And because deep down, he believed he was invincible, Crassus marched into Syria with a staggering force: over 43,000 Roman soldiers under his direct command. Legionnaires, cavalry, and auxiliaries all paid for out of his own overflowing vaults. It wasn't just a campaign, it was a one-man military investment. His ambition had no ceiling. Yet even as he approached the borders of Parthia, warnings followed him like shadows. The king of Armenia, Artavasdes II, offered 30,000 more soldiers and advised Crassus to take the safer mountain route. It would protect the Roman legions from the burning Mesopotamian sun and offer better ground to fight in. He wanted the glory for himself, sharing credit, not an option. So he marched his army straight into the unforgiving deserts of Mesopotamia. Unbeknownst to Crassus, the Parthians were already watching. King Orodes II, realizing the invasion was serious, split his forces. He personally led the main army into Armenia to deal with Artavasdes. Meanwhile, he entrusted a young and brilliant general named Serena with just 10,000 cavalry, mostly horse archers, and elite armored cataphracts. Orodes gave Serena one task: delay the Romans. Nothing more. But Serena had other plans. Charismatic, terrifying, and a tactical genius, Serena was no ordinary commander. He brought with him a massive baggage train of camels, not for food or gold, but for war. They carried hundreds of thousands of arrows, the ammunition for a new kind of battle, one Rome had never seen before. The two armies met near the ancient city of Carrhae. Crassus expected a brief skirmish, then a triumphant march to the Parthian capital. But what he received was one of the bloodiest ambushes in Roman history. As the legions formed up in a tight box-shaped square to avoid being outflanked, Serena struck with terrifying speed. His horse archers encircled the Romans like vultures around a carcass, launching volley after volley of arrows that blotted out the sun. The Romans raised their shields in testudo formation, but it wasn't enough. The arrows kept coming. The camel caravans moved like clockwork, constantly resupplying the archers. The air was thick with whistling death. Men screamed, shields splintered, blood soaked the sand. Crassus waited for the archers to run out of arrows. They never did. Then came the Parthian cataphracts, massive, heavily armored cavalrymen who looked like iron statues atop war beasts. They charged head-on, smashing into Roman lines and retreating before the legionnaires could regroup. It was a dance of death. Archers circled, cataphracts slammed, then pulled away. The Romans couldn't move. They couldn't breathe. Crassus, desperate to turn the tide, sent his own son Publius Crassus with 5,000 cavalry and 500 archers to flank the Parthians. What he didn't know was that Serena had laid another trap. The Parthians pretended to flee, luring young Publius and his men far from the main force. Once isolated, they turned and struck with full fury. Surrounded and hopelessly outmatched, Publius fought valiantly, but in the end, chose suicide over the humiliation of capture. His head was cut off and mounted on a spear. When Crassus saw his son's severed head raised high by the enemy, something in him broke. But there was no time to mourn. The battle raged on. As the Roman square tightened in terror, the Parthian archers resumed their endless assault. The camels kept coming. The arrows never stopped. The legionnaires collapsed from wounds, heat, thirst, and fear. Crassus tried to rally his men, but they were surrounded, suffocating, in an invisible noose of Parthian steel and sand. As night fell, the Parthians withdrew, leaving behind a field of Roman corpses. The survivors, bloody, broken, and traumatized, begged Crassus to retreat. He agreed. Under the cover of darkness, they stumbled toward Carrhae, but thousands of wounded were left behind to see prey. At dawn, Parthian cataphracts returned and slaughtered them all. With morale shattered and options dwindling, Crassus reluctantly agreed to meet Surenna for peace talks. The Parthian general offered safe passage in exchange for Rome surrendering its claims east of the Euphrates. Crassus hesitated. He didn't trust the Parthians, but his men threatened to mutiny if he didn't negotiate. The meeting was a trap. Accounts differ. Some say Crassus was ambushed. Others claim there was a scuffle over terms. The end was the same. Crassus was killed. His head was severed, his body desecrated, and in one of history's most brutal acts of poetic justice, molten gold was poured down his throat, mocking the very greed that led him there. Of the original 43,000 Roman soldiers, only a handful made it home. 20,000 were killed. 10,000 were taken prisoner and reportedly resettled in far-off lands, possibly even as mercenaries in Central Asia. The Parthian casualties, minimal. The Battle of Carrhae wasn't just a defeat, it was an annihilation. Rome had never seen anything like it. Crassus' greed had cost the Republic more than lives. It shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility. It exposed the vulnerabilities of even the mightiest army. And it proved that arrogance, when paired with ignorance, can destroy empires. So what do you think? Is Crassus a tragic figure chasing eternal glory, or a fool blinded by his own gold? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if you crave more untold battles, ancient betrayals, forgotten empires, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. Because history doesn't whisper, it screams. We're just getting started.